Let the banging commence.
The banging?
Yeah, I hear a woman.
Why?
A woman has entered my downstairs neighbor's apartment.
No way! Oh my God, if you hear anything, we have to listen.
Okay, I will go down to the shared wall on the first floor, and I will do my best to capture the hyperbolic
Lovemaking,
ecstasy.
Yeah.
Yes. The screams of pleasure and pain all mixed into one.
Ooh. It's a soup, a sexy soup.
Yeah. It's pretty gross.
Yeah. I don't know why. That's how she sounds.
I mean, when it goes on for, I don't know, 10 minutes straight, it's like, what the hell?
Oh, really?
I've never actually timed it.
It's a long time.
I can't say it. No, that is. That's why when I said 10, I was like, it's probably not 10. It feels like it goes on for a long time because it's so distracting and it just feels performative. But, what's the average? 3 minutes is actually what they say. That seems short, but
yeah, like actual penetrative intercourse.
Yeah, I feel like 7 is a good number.
Yeah,
7, and it fluctuates. As a dude, I can say it fluctuates. Sometimes, like, oh god, I don't know what's happening today. This is going to be this will be a 3-minute day. And other times, it's like, what the hell is going on? And then it becomes
a 3-minute day.
Then it becomes a chore on the flip side. It's like, why isn't this end?
Oh man, who knows what to do now?
I'm just saying that it's no exact science.
Yeah.
These when people talk about it, they're like,
yeah,
oh, you 2-pump chump. I was like, have you never been in that? If it's happening every single time, yes, there's a problem. But it's like, have you never been in that position where it's like, sure, you don't want it to end, and you have to do whatever is needed to make sure it is extended. Maybe that's where the experience comes in. So no, it's one of those days. So I need to take care, take caution, and deviate from my initial plan of attack. But anyway, it's like, especially I last 30 minutes every time. It's like, I don't think people like that. I don't think anyone wants that.
No. 30 minutes?
It is absolutely insane when you listen to dudes talk about sex and what they think people enjoy, women enjoy. I don't know if gay men have the same conversations. I don't know if there are gay men going around saying, I last 30 minutes. I would assume that's not one.
Yeah, I doubt it. I think with gay male sex, I think it's less performative.
Yeah, you just get on the same page.
Yeah, you're just like, yeah. And you can there's no guilt about stopping it, Like, if you're on, if you're meeting up for a hookup or something, and the person opens the door, you can just say, never mind.
I
don't
know.
Mid blowjob and say, I'm not into this anymore. I'm like, oh, okay.
I think that would still hurt the other person's feelings.
But it's but I wonder if it would hurt as much because it's just a hookup,
I don't know. I feel like if somebody stops in the middle, I don't care what your sexual orientation is. If somebody stops you, like, no, it's fine. Let's not do this anymore. Now, if something's going on with them and they're just, say they're depressed or somebody died and they're just not into it, that's one thing. But if it's like you said, open the door and you look at the person, it's like, no, never mind. And you slam the door. Yeah, that's going to hurt someone's fucking feelings.
Yeah, you're right. I'm not saying it wouldn't hurt someone's feelings, I guess. I'm saying that there's less worry. Like a woman will sort of entertain and play a little coy, women will typically not just say, never mind. They're like, oh, hi, I'm just, and just sort of dance around it instead of just being totally honest.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah. I'm not saying that gay men have no feelings. I'm not saying that.
It sounds like that's where you went. Like, yeah,
It kind of
it's
does
just
sound like that.
it's
But
just known in the gay community when we plan a hookup and the man shows up to my door and I open it. And if I don't like the way he looks, I slam it in his face, and it doesn't mean anything. It's not personal.
yeah.
It's not personal. It's sex.
Yes.
There was one time, I don't know. I've been notorious through my history for not rejecting women because I want to make them feel bad or I'm not attracted to them. It's just something I wasn't necessarily driven by. And there's been situations where, women think that men are always going to say yes.
Mm.
And if I kind of like someone, but I'm not really into them, when I was younger, I wouldn't just have sex with them. Maybe a lot of guys would have done that. And it really hurt people's feelings, though. And it was always strange to me because I felt as though I was actually doing the thing that would hurt your feelings less. To me, it would have hurt a person's feelings more if I had sex with them and then just ditched them. It's like never to be heard from again.
Yeah. I think that the person that would approach you in that way was using their sexuality as a way to be validated or affirmed in some way. And so you rejecting them isn't an act of care, right? It's an act of not, it's an act of not giving them the validation that they're seeking.
This was also, a lot of this was early 20s. Everyone's a fucking mess trying to figure their shit out.
Oh, absolutely.
So hopefully these days, although one of these people, oh my God, this is so insane because I was 20, just say 23 for the sake of it. It was around there. And this woman was turning 30.
Uh-huh.
And in my mind, I was like, oh, you're just going through some crisis. And that's why you want to have, I didn't say any of this to her, but I thought she was so old and she was having trouble with it. And I was just around and she saw it as an opportunity to make herself feel better. She can still snag the young, hot buck because that's exactly what I was.
A young, hot buck.
It's so fucking dumb. What a piece of shit way of thinking. Because one, that's not old. But then again...
But that's a big difference between 30s and early 20s.
Yeah, well, I'm in a relationship now where there's a 13-year age difference, so I can't,
No, but there are differences. Like, the same age gap can be somewhat meaningless and meaningful, and it fluctuates throughout time. Like, my parents are 9 years apart, and for a large chunk of their relationship, that was not a problem. But now it's tough because my dad is at an age that is more difficult health-wise or like physically, so she's having to do more care for him, and then if you're 20, did you say, how old were you when this person was hitting on you?
Let's just say 23. Also, they weren't just hitting on me. The thing was...
Oh, they wanted to have sex.
I mean, outside of that, we had hung out. I forget how we met, but it was organically. This was before dating apps and stuff. It was just probably through a friend, and I enjoyed hanging out with the person. So it also wasn't out of left field. It's like we hung out, and there was an opportunity for something to grow naturally. I just didn't think of her that way. And then when it got to that point with her, I assigned all these fucking feelings and thoughts to her.
Was it because you didn't want to, but you felt bad about not wanting to?
Yeah, who knows? Who knows what it was? Because, I mean, the age difference really didn't care. I did think 30 was old. I remember when my friend Lee turned 27 and I was 24. I was like, oh my God, you're fucking old. You're on the other side of 25 by 2 years now.
Yeah.
It's so dumb. And then
it is older, though. It's, I mean, 27 and 23 can be very different.
Yeah.
Yeah, 33 and 37, not so much. Barely at all, There might be some references that you just missed, because you were too old or she was too young or whatever. But
well, during that period, that was my period of dating Lee. When I look back on it, I've decided that I actually dated him. Like nothing romantic or sexual
Yeah,
happened,
yeah. This
but
was your, I didn't date anyone for a year. Aren't I great? But actually, you were dating him.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like I still filled that void with someone that I just hung out with. Like it was new to my life and exciting. And then I hung out with them pretty much every day. I remember sitting at the local after my 99X shift. So it was, 12:30 at night.
Sure.
That was normal. That was fun. And Lee said, I'm going to go to Iceland on my 40th birthday. We're all going to go. I was like, my God, that's so fucking far away, but it sounds cool. So let's do it. And, he turned 40 years ago. Never happened.
And you never went.
Nah, he's been busy with his band. They've been touring. Yeah, he's in Algiers, which...
That sounds like a country.
It is.
It is? I thought it was Algeria.
Well, it's a city in a country.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yes.
Then I'm right.
Well, you're wrong. And
Yeah,
I was wrong. I was wrong by saying it's a country, but it's a place. Like when you said that, I was just thinking, yeah, it's a place.
Yeah.
But it's the capital city of Algeria.
Okay.
They were signed when Lee was 37, which is pretty cool, by like Matador Records, which doesn't happen too often, I think. I could be wrong. I don't know how many old people are being signed by record labels, but
so old.
In an industry that is all about how can we package this thing up totally and look is part of it and market it to the young, impressionable minds out there who want somebody who's hot, not somebody who is awkward on stage and hides with his weird instruments that he's devised, like behind an amp, and he kneels down on the ground because the guitar he's playing is so strange it needs to be laid flat on the stage. It's like wow. It was interesting. Lee's not the front man though, so it's fine.
Yeah.
I just think it's funny that he is very talented, but I don't think he's so comfortable on stage, which I may not be either.
Yeah, it sounds right up your alley.
What, being weird on stage?
Yeah, and especially like befriending someone who would have that performance style, like right on brand.
There's a reason. There was a reason we were good friends, and he helped me with the Futureplex and wrote the music, and we entered the Chomp and Stomp chili cook-off together and tried to make the world's best chili out of the grossest ingredients.
What did you use again?
Licorice, anise. Is that the way it's pronounced?
Anise.
Yeah, I don't know how to actually pronounce that.
Otherwise, you say anus, or you're too close to anise. Anise.
Spearmint. Which, on its own, spearmint isn't necessarily the grossest thing, but in the combination.
But thinking of that with chili sounds really gross.
1,000-year-old Chinese eggs.
That's kind of insulting. That's
Why?
Racist. Oh. Because somebody, that's like someone's culture. And you're like, look at this gross thing.
Well, they are pretty gross.
I understand why you did it. Oh, or like those what's it called? It's the duck fetus in the egg.
Oh yeah. Then like I don't know, I can't remember what.
I forget what it's called.
We just eat the whole thing.
Yeah, well they sip, so apparently like the juice inside of it is pretty good. It tastes like chicken soup, like broth. And then you just eat the whole like skeleton of the, like you eat it.
Yeah, balut.
Yeah, balut. Thank you. Good job.
I remember when that made an appearance on the internet, and everyone, oh my God, it's so disgusting. Which it's not, if you think about it, that disgusting. But also, I guess at the same time, because you see a little baby and you're just going to chomp down on the whole thing.
Yeah, like you see, it's like neck hanging.
Oh yeah, its eyes have formed.
Yeah.
So I get that. And then I remember the backlash, which the way you react to this is so racist. All of you are such terrible people. And then there'd be somebody who came on, and that was a snack they ate when they were a child, and they'd start crying. I'm like, just the reaction to the snack that I never thought about twice when I was a toddler and my mom would take me to the market and hand it to me. The way you react to it makes me feel so terrible as a person. You've really crushed me. It's like, okay,
Was that
hot
something you
dogs.
actually saw someone
Yeah,
say?
yeah.
Oh,
I just saw a
that's pretty
video
lame.
of a woman who was on the train here in New York City
Uh-huh.
with a group of Hasidic Jews, and she broke down in tears because she felt unsafe because she tied that to the war in Israel.
Tied
That
what?
was the being on the train with a group of Hasidic Jews,
Oh, boy.
and
Oh.
that caused her to break down in tears.
Ooh. Well, I mean, if she was like, wow, this was touching and I felt a connection to something, but
No, she said the implication was, get away from me. I can't stand that you're even near me. Like just
oh.
tying all, I guess because the Hasidic community is so extreme,
Mhm.
to the right, conservative, that the connection was drawn with the Israeli government. But
Okay.
to
But
be
also,
that,
whoa, babe, like what else is going on?
yeah, to be that easily upset. So the same thing with this egg.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
To me, it's like hot dogs are absolutely fucking disgusting. They are. I eat them, but if you
Yeah.
dig in, they're gross. And if somebody else in a different country said hot dogs are fucking sick, and then just talked about why they
Yeah.
were repulsed by them, I wouldn't feel sad that when I was a kid, I had a birthday party where I ate
Right.
hot dogs and was excited.
Yeah.
It wouldn't
You're
be
like,
a
what?
personal.
You're like, oh, I know it is gross, but I really like them. I can't help it. I grew
And
up
even
on
it,
them, and that's it.
yeah. And even if I was in the country, like I can understand if you grew up in a country and then you move to the United States. So you're an immigrant, you have to adjust and figure out how to fit in, and you're immersed in it, and all the people are shitting on the balut egg.
Mhm.
It's a little different than just saying it in passing. But again, if I went to a country and I lived in that country, and then all the people said hot dogs are fucking disgusting, I'd say, yeah, you're right,
Yeah.
but it's okay. I like them,
Yeah.
and
I
they're
don't
tied
know
to good memories.
what
I
is
don't feel attacked.
Yeah, why do people take something like that so personally? So it's either because they don't actually take it personally and are using it to create content, uh, or and maybe some other things. But then the next thought is they take it so personally because it's got to be some past reason, right? Like being criticized by anyone is so hurtful for some reason, right? And so you could be anyone, and it doesn't even have to be about like their food and their connection to their culture. It's like it could be, you know, making fun of people with making fun of millennials with side parts. Uh, saying like that's out
Is
of
that a
style.
thing?
Yeah. Well, it was, and now it's back to that's fine. I don't know. Anyway, for a while it was like on TikTok it would be like making fun of millennials for their side parts. Like we part it in the middle now.
I always parted my hair on the side when I was a kid. I
Right.
remember with my dad, we were sitting there and he taught me how to comb my hair, and
That's right.
you're crushing my whole
But that's what I
existence
mean.
and
Like, it's got to
being.
be, there's something else going on. If it's
Well,
hysterical, it's historical. Okay. Or it's fake.
obviously, being human is complex. There are a lot
Mhm.
of things that go into this. I can't boil it down and figure out any one reason somebody would act so hysterically. But part of me feels a lot of it is tied to identity in whatever way. Are you a person who, because we've been told for so long that we shouldn't show our emotions, even women to an extent, like women get labeled, women haven't been told like men don't show emotions, but they get labeled like,
Yeah.
hey, yeah, hey, of course you're overreacting. Oh my God, I can't deal with it. I just used the word hysterical, and what I think is a proper way, but it is thrown out there just because somebody shows a bit of emotion, like, oh, you're being hysterical, when
Yeah.
they're not being hysterical. So maybe it's rooted in that on some level, a percentage of it too. It's like, well, I'm going to be free with my feelings and emotions and nobody's going to stop me. And empathy, I don't know where it fucking came from. Not, people actually feeling and caring. That's a good thing about others. But where it came from, where it's like the display of empathy is one of the top factors in rating how good of a human you are. Yes, by default, empathy is an important thing, but blasting it out there and trying to outdo other people with your empathy is very strange to me.
Well, don't you think that that's the part that isn't rooted in reality, right? It's not rooted in an actual sort of reasonable reaction to something.
Say it again.
That type of like not outburst, but just reaction, I guess. That type of reaction isn't within the spectrum of what you expect reactions to be. And so when it's outside of that, whether you're a man or a woman, it's puzzling, right? Or it's jarring, and it makes you question whether it's real, whether it's manipulation, where it's really coming from. And then they get to dig in their heels and say, like, you're trying to stop them from reacting, when it's like, no, you can react, but this feels too much.
And the documenting of the reaction.
Well, that's a whole nother, that brings a whole nother element into it, because then it's like, why the need to document it?
Well, using the woman on the train with the Hasidic Jews as an example, if the camera were recording in the moment and, you know, she feels strongly about the loss of life in Gaza and has really dug in and seen images and videos, I can see how that can get to you. And in that moment, still feels like still feels like a bit of a stretch, but people have a range of feeling, and that could cause it in the moment. But when you come home, you set up the phone, you start recording.
Yeah. And then push those tears out so that you can get the shot, you know?
And whether or not it is genuine, you still have to get to a place. It's not happening organically at that point. You have to set up the phone.
Even if, she could have, let's say she really did have that feeling and then went home and recorded it. Now it is inauthentic. Now it feels inauthentic, because after having that experience or that thought or that moving sort of moment on a train, you feel that way, you go home, you're not carrying that sort of level of energy toward that feeling for like 45 minutes until you get home. You know what I mean?
Some people may be able to tap in. Maybe they carry it around with them longer.
But that's what I mean. If they're able to tap in that quickly, then it's like there's something else that's that sort of that shell. And I don't mean shell as in like protection, but just like that veneer is like too thin. Well, who am I to say too thin? I don't know.
I don't like being so dismissive, but we are at the point where I can't. By default, I think you have to start from a position of being maybe not quite cynical, but skeptical.
Skeptical, yeah. Is this real? Did you do this for clout?
I can't give the benefit of the doubt starting off anymore. No. And I feel like I used to. But I can't do it at this point.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that this stuff isn't real.
Yeah.
I do kind of take offense to the fact, though, that there's been such an overcompensation of emotions. Like, as a person who would dismiss my feelings quite often with logic, and as a person who I feel is pretty emotional, and I still find myself to this day, by default, I will lean to logic and try to dismiss what I'm feeling or write it off or say, you know, this doesn't matter. If somebody's asking me a question, I'm acting a certain way. It's like, I don't need to even bring it up. I don't want to burden you with it. To me, it shouldn't even be this big of a deal. And that's not always the right thing to do. I do think there's instances where that probably is the right thing to do. It's like, don't dump all of this on a person. But if someone's asking and they genuinely care and something's coming up,
right,
it can still be hard for me to talk. And I obviously went to therapy every week for 7 years, worked very hard on that. And I do see the value in expressing feelings and actually feeling feelings, maybe not even expressing them. The first thing is actually allowing yourself to feel them.
Right.
I think there's much value there. And as a person who put in the work and leaned into it, you then get this explosion of everyone who's like, every little thing I feel I'm going to share. And to me, it doesn't discredit anything I did, but it makes me not want to implement the work that I did in therapy, because I just want to distance myself from these people
because you
as
don't
much as
want.
possible.
Yeah, it's like I really don't like PETA because, well, they've really calmed down. It seems like I don't know, but for a while, they were really extreme.
They're still extreme.
Huh?
They're still extreme.
I'm sure they are, but they're quieter about it.
I think there's so much other stuff going on. Anyway, I'm not trying to just continue.
Okay, well, yeah, I felt like they were a lot, right? And I would see stuff that they would say, and you'd be like, oh, I totally agree with that. And you're like, damn it, I don't want to say I'm on the side of PETA because they're like organizing naked sort of like marches because of wearing like fur, using leather, like throwing paint on people. It's like, fuck you, dude. Calm down.
Yesterday, this isn't as extreme as throwing blood or paint on someone, but they're really going after Jill Biden because they want her to swap the eggs at the annual White House Easter egg hunt with potatoes. So
wait,
again,
they use real eggs?
Well, you're thinking those plastic ones with candy? I mean,
I don't want to hard boil. If I was a kid at the like White House Easter thing, I better be getting like big ass candy in those things.
Maybe you get to trade it in at the end. No, you're right. As a kid, if I was picking up actual eggs, like what the hell?
Yeah, I don't want this weird thing.
Yeah, you're right. That is a very strange thing. I got so wrapped up in the potato, I didn't think about why are they using real eggs? Why wouldn't you fill them with delicious candy?
Yeah, I pay my taxes. Anyway,
a quick search on PETA. There are plenty of things like just from hours ago. So they're still on the move. They just get drowned out with all the other stuff going on. They're getting drowned out these days. There's so many causes and so many people yelling and screaming. At some point, it all gets tuned out.
Mm-hmm.
And similarly to what we were just talking about with feelings, that was what I kind of feel too. There is a stigma with men and with women, as we already talked about, and any kind of progress in changing that or getting people to understand that there's a middle ground and it's actually healthy to express things, gets drowned out when you have people who are just crying uncontrollably on every corner. And I think that's where my real problem with it lies, because it was a bit of a struggle for me. Mm-hmm. And expressing feelings to people, expressing feelings about feelings to other people and trying to say, hey, this stuff is okay. Opening up, trying to get people to view things differently.
You remember that photo of that woman, like once Trump was inaugurated and she was like, no!
I don't know if I know the exact one you're talking about because I've seen so many of them.
Okay.
I've seen.
There was kind of a famous one where she was there. And I guess it's a video too, but there's also a picture of her like on her knees with her arms out. You're like, at least that's how I remember it. No. And you're like, bitch, I kind of agree, but I don't want, like, I don't want to be associated with people like you.
Is it the woman? You may not know this. And I'm sure that this video, if there's video of it, it's been used quite a bit, but there was something I saw that was really funny. It's so stupid. And it's not even because I buy into the messaging of it. It's like, the point is there's no commentary, but it's the scene from Kindergarten Cop where the kid says, boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. And then it immediately cuts to a woman who may be this woman screaming like, nah! And I thought it was pretty funny.
That's funny.
So I don't know if it's the same one, but
I don't know either, but it might be. She's in green. I just looked her up.
What did you type in? Woman
cries during Trump inauguration. And go to images and it's all her.
Listen to me type during the recording. Oh yeah, that was it. That's the woman.
Okay. Yeah.
That was the one that was used in that video. So I'm sure as a person who's not so connected to the internet and always looking at the memes,
Right, yeah.
to me, someone else is listening and saying, that's old, man.
Yeah, it is
Fucking
old.
old hat. So, I don't know. Surprisingly, Christina knows all the TikTok terms, and she's not even on TikTok. And I say,
What?
How do you learn this shit?
How does she?
I have no clue. She says they pop up on Reddit.
Oh man, she's so cool. She's on Reddit. I only go to Reddit for advice. Like, I need a color printer for a small business.
You trust Redditors.
Yes,
You're not wrong.
I do.
I go to Reddit to look things up too, but you have to, when it's faceless, nameless, usernames, like butt plug popsicle.
Yeah.
I should take this with a grain of salt.
For sure. But
if somebody writes confidently and correctly,
yeah,
with good grammar and punctuation to me, it does lend them some credibility that maybe they don't deserve.
Well, and a lot of times, like, I don't follow the threads that like get, 20 or 30 deep. It's like all the way over to the right side of the page because people are making little jokes. I skip all past that.
That is the one annoying thing with Reddit. Sometimes you do just want to know more about the post, even if you're not looking for information. But somebody posts something interesting and you want to give a little more context, a little more background. And it's always some fucking pun or some dumb joke at the top. And it gets all the upvotes. And on some level, I'm probably angry that I'm not the one who made the joke, even though I can't stand the fact that the jokes are clogging up the thread.
Like, I want to be clever. And I need to prove it.
Those threads where people get into fights.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of fun because then you get to read their fight.
Still to this day, why do people do it? What do they think? I
don't know. I felt that, especially on Facebook, I've felt like I want to argue with this person. And then I don't because I'm not an idiot.
Nobody goes away from it.
I get it. Like, I felt the urge to do that,
I get it too. And people are so defensive sometimes. If you write something, I wrote the Love is Blind subreddit.
Yeah.
Big fan of Love is Blind. And people just throw the term narcissist around.
They really do.
This dude's a narcissist. Like in the
classic
show.
Narcissist.
In the show, the guy was talking about how he needed to work on himself, go to therapy because he had a dad who cheated on his wife, and his dad used to take him as a kid with him when he would cheat. And like, I don't know, leave him in the car or something.
Oh.
And like, this guy, he ditched this woman. He's such a narcissist. I said, anyone who even is aware enough to say that they need to improve and go to therapy is not a narcissist, because that's not what narcissists do.
No, a narcissist would argue about why they were put into the position to behave that way.
And I try to respond respectfully. I'm not trying to be dismissive or nasty. I'm just saying this and then agreeing with something else the person said and building on that. Saying he does come off as, bringing up the fact that neurosis is also a form of self-centeredness, but it's not the same as narcissism, because you actually are thinking of other people, but it just always becomes about you in the end for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I could surely see a person who dad took them as they cheated on their mom to be a bit neurotic on some level.
Yeah.
And the only thing the person focuses on is the fact that I said they were wrong in using narcissist.
Yeah.
And the response is, it's a term we use now on the internet to describe people who are self-centered. So now you're just hijacking the term and using it in a very generic way, which I know is what happens. And at some point, the word doesn't mean anything anymore. And maybe that doesn't fucking matter. But everybody using these buzzwords like gaslighting when they have no fucking clue what it means, and they just put it out there, and everything is abuse and everything's a red flag. People aren't allowed to be. Look, I would never go on a fucking TV show just because outside of the internet, I probably wouldn't do it anyway. But maybe there would be a bit more appeal. Like at some point I thought I'd like to go on The Real World. I will fool the producers into thinking I'm very dramatic. And once I actually get the role, I'll just be the guy who sits on the couch and does nothing. Some stupid fucking thing like that. But these days, the way people go after you constantly, even if you can just dismiss them on some level, it's like, my fucking God, you know nothing about me. And the way you talk, as if people can't make mistakes and can't be flawed. That's fucking hysterical reaction in its own right. It's like, what the fuck?
Well, I guess at that point, could it be a reflection of themselves? Like, especially if they identify with that person and then you're telling them that that person is flawed and they're like, no, they're not.
On some level, it's probably that. Another level, it's a stew of people trying to show each other that they get it, that they're tuned in.
Yeah.
And
well, especially like the issue with being so woke, you know, and like sort of proving, what is that called? The virtue signaling.
Yes.
Yeah, stuff like that. That's such a thing.
It is. And it has been a thing. And the way it's been attacked.
Yeah.
And the way the people attack it for their own benefit on the other side of things.
Right. Yeah.
Wanting to completely dismiss, the valid reasons people may act that way. It's like,
they're all like, everyone on the other side are all like Hicks, and then the other side, everyone has green hair, or lesbians or something.
Yeah, I can't deal with it.
Yeah.
But it is the way people interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody.
Not in real life, though. Online, for sure.
What does that matter? I think online makes up more of your real life at this point. You're right that if you're sitting down and having a conversation, it'll be a bit more civilized. There are some people who still like to take it to the extreme because they feel as though they're being brave in the moment and they're really going to stick it to the person. I saw something, and I can't remember any of the people involved, but one of these guys who probably isn't even that far right, he's probably moderately conservative, was at a college and students were asking him questions, but mostly trying to trip him up. And
okay.
And I can't remember what the one kid asked.
That's a fun way to interact with people. I don't like the other side either, where they talk to like the Trump people and like get them to get tripped up. I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah,
dude.
I don't like any of it. It's all just gotchas. It's all just, can I, look at that. I got you.
Yeah.
I proved my point and now nothing will change. And people don't like me because I come off as the fucking twerp in this process too. Yeah. But this one kid, whatever he asked, he was demolished in the response. And he really did just resort to name calling. He said, well, you fuck you. Your face is fucking small. And then he walked away. It's like, okay.
Face is small?
Yes. I think that gives you great insight into the emotional state of some of these people. It's like they don't really care about the things they're talking about. It's just a fucking whirlwind of God knows what, of some kind of turmoil. Are you trying to find it? I don't know if it's a viral clip or not. This was a longer thing.
No, I just like your face is small. It's really fun.
I didn't get my gotcha, and I was made to look a fool, and now I can't go show my friends the clip of it. But yes, as you're saying on the other side, I can't stand the fact that no actual discussions can be had because nothing gets done, nothing is constructive unless you meet somewhere. It doesn't have to be right in the middle, but you got to compromise on some level. And even if you don't want to compromise, learning what other people have to say can help you reinforce your own opinions. Sure. You can still completely dismiss, but it can help you reinforce them on a more logically sound, rationally sound level.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with maybe finding out you're wrong or gaining a new perspective and it creating a more nuanced opinion than you had before. There's nothing wrong with that. I ain't got time for that. Yeah, no time for that.
Because most of people's lives is on the internet now. There's not as much interaction. And I'm not saying that people aren't going out. This isn't, everyone just sits in their parents' basement. I'm not trying to say that. But so much interaction does actually, especially this type of interaction, you're not going out having conversations with people constantly about deep topics. So it presents itself more on the internet too. I get that. But because of the extreme way people communicate on the internet, when does that become the reality? So I can't just dismiss it and say, well, that's not real. That's on the internet.
I feel like it's not reality because, they talk about how I think there's been, science done about people's interactions with each other in cars versus on the street. And people don't interact with people on the street the same way they do in their car, even though their face is visible just like it is in person, but you are in this protected environment inside your car. So that's how I kind of feel about online arguments or people talking through even like a visual thing like TikTok or something.
But those are very real reactions. The person who's in their giant truck who gets so angry that they're willing to smash another person's windshield and punch them in the face through it. That's real. That's a real reaction. Just because
that's
it was
different because
triggered.
they've gotten out of their car, but they also felt protected enough to be able to like do that. But I'm just saying though, people don't do that when having a face-to-face sort of dance on the sidewalk, whether you're going to go to the right or the left or the right. Oh, sorry.
I'd say that's the fake reaction then. If anything, people aren't being their true selves when they're having in-person interactions, because we're seeing true colors in every other instance except face-to-face interactions. Well, if a guy is in a truck and he feels safe and he rams someone, he doesn't get out of the truck, let's say, because you say once you get out, then it's a different thing. If you ram someone, there's still real world damage and there's still destruction and casualties. So I have to say that's the real feeling and the real issue.
I think the real reaction is not the same as the big reaction, like someone's outburst or okay. So being online or being in your truck and reacting that way, those are like, I guess those are real reactions. And I know what you're saying. It's like they're true reactions to something, but it's not dealing with the person that you're having this interaction with in the real world. You're doing it through the protection of something else. And so you're able to go into this sort of more...
But this is people's natural state, seemingly. There's a lot of...
Okay.
There is.
I think it's part of the spectrum of what's natural, just like we all throw little tantrums about something,
There's so much anger. People carry around so much anger. They want to react like this. And when they get the moment to, for whatever reason, they got the protection you're saying that they get with the car or being online. This is the way they really want to react. They're not altering their behavior in the truck. They're altering their behavior in real life. And maybe it's always been like that.
In real life, exactly. In real life.
Yeah, but they're altering. That's not their real self. Like, oh, I got to be a bit civil now. But that's
real life. Because in real life, there's
still some semblance of rules in fucking society.
That's what I'm saying. In real life is about interacting with actual people face to face. And we are herd animals and we want to keep the herd calm. And so we're not going to, not everybody, obviously, but the goal is to try and like keep things chill.
Well, that barrier is breaking down more and more.
I don't think so. I think
it's
nah.
More of it's...
Don't be an old man and say that everything's
I'm not being
worse.
an old man. Like, you can't just say, oh, you're being an old man because you say things are getting worse. That's a fucking shitty thing to do because that completely dismisses the argument. If you get enough people in any space like New York, when you actually are interacting in the real world, but you're dealing with so many people, these outbursts do happen. There is a construct of society, a rule book that we all follow to an extent, but less we care about it less as time goes on. Like, whatever, those fucking rules are outdated, and I'm gonna start letting my real feelings with just hatred and disdain for everyone come out into the real world. So while
I didn't mean to dismiss you, I'm sorry.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and people will react in a certain way because they feel as though the environment allows them to do so with maybe less danger to themselves, where outside of your truck, if you go after someone, they could beat the shit out of you.
Yeah.
They would still want to, though. They may just hold back because the negative repercussions to them, they weigh the options in their head and like, all right, it's not so good if I do this because bad things could happen to me, not because they don't want to.
Right. Okay. I agree.
And as this continues, I feel as though it'll continue to break down as we move on. It's just going to devolve into more chaos. Like, people are...
I hope humans,
not. All the stuff I said about the stigma attached to not showing feelings. If I had to have one or the other, just go back to fucking bottling it all up.
No, because then it makes terrible children.
No, because what is happening, and this is the funny thing, is the people who say that people who show too many emotions are pussies or snowflakes or whatever, their emotions are all channeled into anger, and they're still acting just as hysterically as anyone else.
Right.
It's just all anger.
Right.
It's like when you get so fucking pissed off over something that doesn't matter that much, and you want to smash a person's skull in over it. It's like, you're just because you're not crying or feeling sad doesn't mean you're not as insane.
Yeah.
Because you are. So I've rethought this.
Okay.
I think just bottle it all up.
Okay.
We should go back to a time when nobody should be feeling anything. Dismiss feelings with logic. Look at the situation like, logically, none of this, the reaction would make sense. So I'm just going to tell myself I'm wrong. That's probably the better way to go in the long run. Because this unbottled, raw fucking emotion shit is poison.
Well, I think that's true too. I mean, there is even like anything that goes past a certain point can be anything that is helpful, and you go past a certain point, then it becomes destructive. Like even therapy, like breaking down every single thought or every single feeling and never being able to move forward because you're constant, like that, all that navel gazing stuff. Like I know that was also used, like you talked about earlier, with like gaslighting and narcissists, but there is a point to that where it's like, you're doing too much. You also have to like deal with the world. Oh my God. It's like those people in that weird conference thing where they were all trying to be really nice to each other. They're like, people are still clapping and it's upsetting for some of us.
What is this?
It's that thing where they were all, I don't remember what it was for, but they were all like coming up with ways to interact with each other. I don't even know if they were supposed to be getting something done, but they couldn't because they kept talking about all the things that they needed to do during the meeting that were not going to disturb people with like sensory issues and stuff. So people would get on the mic like, people are still clapping and some people have issues with people
Yeah. Sorry.
Right.
So
it's like,
if I was a person who didn't like the sound of clapping or caused physical pain or whatever it is, I would do my best to mitigate that. I would not expect everyone else to not clap.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So that's what people...
And quite often I wonder how many, just staying on the person who has sensory issues because it illustrates a bigger point, but it's a specific thing. How often is it the person with the sensory issue who's complaining? And how many times is it a person who just knows them, who wants to be the good guy looking out for them?
Yeah.
And needs to tell everyone, don't clap. We need to look out for them.
Well, that's the virtue signaling thing. That's the like keeping up with the Wokersons, that people
I'm
do.
the savior. I'm coming in.
Yeah.
I'm going to
I'm an
take care of
ally
this.
and everyone has to know.
Yeah, fucking white people. Jesus Christ. Great. You're all allies. I get it. You're an ally?
How?
You step back and you
shut the fuck up.
You mind your own fucking business. And if you see instances where you can help, where they present themselves, where you can maybe say something to help a person
For sure.
who's being discriminated against or in your position.
You speak up.
Yeah. That proactively walk marching. I'm here. Look at me. I have guilt for slavery, even though I came from Eastern Europe in 1953. You're white. Yes. But by default, you had nothing to do with slavery. By default, being white doesn't mean that, you're tied to that.
Yeah.
It was an awful, terrible thing. You can say that, and that can be the end of it.
Yes.
Whatever guilt you're carrying is self-imposed.
Yeah. It's probably a distraction from something else that you really need to sit and feel instead of this thing that has little to anything to do with you.
Well, it's also a blanket statement. It's like, by being white, you are guilty. You are guilty. You are responsible for slavery. It's like, no, I'm not. And that's also
do people say nobody says that?
I think that there are a lot of white people who feel that way.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying the other way.
No, they feel that way, and that's why they go over the top.
Yeah.
It's also a ridiculous statement to make because it is an umbrella statement. And if you did that, made some kind of statement of any sort to a person of color, then you'd be like, you are fucking being racist. How can you say that?
Yeah.
That all Asian people like balut. How can you fucking say a thing like that? There's double standards.
Yeah.
It's fucking moronic. And again, I feel like focusing I do feel this way about anyone who acts in any extreme, and people on the right surely do this too. I'm just not I'm not around them as much. And I'm not saying in those circles there must be conservatives who fucking can't stand it and talk about the alt-right people the same way.
Yeah.
It's just easier for me to tune those people out. In my daily life, I have more exposure to people who are extreme on the left. And this is why it bothers me more. It's also because, I have a lot of liberal views. And it's like, what? You fucking are just destroying it. It's destroyed. It's done.
Yes.
You've burnt it to the ground.
I don't want to be associated with agreeing with this person.
Yeah. It's like, it's done. It's okay. You're finished.
Yeah.
Thank you. I mean, as a person who believes things like universal health care, I know that it's a concept that's a very difficult thing to implement, especially in a bigger country. And there's a lot of hurdles and things, but the fact that there's no discussion about it, no interest in figuring a way out of this asinine private insurance tied to full-time employment system. Like, even if we don't get to universal healthcare, a restructuring of the way insurance works and access to it, even if it remains public.
And at the very least, just a recognition of, there are a lot of systems that we have in place that we have in place that are broken and need fixing.
But because everyone operates in extremes, because it's easier to get reelected that way too. You're like, this fucking idiot. Do you know what they want to tax you 50% for your healthcare? So one, healthcare costs are outrageous. Yes, they are offset by your employer. Some people have better benefits because their employer pays more for the benefits. That is dumb though. And especially in a world where people are being pushed to, work in the gig culture and shit like that, to not have access to insurance. But this is not, I don't want to get too deep into that. But as a person who holds views on it and understands it's a full spectrum of discussions that can be had, but you start from something's wrong and it needs to be fixed. But you've got people who would feel similarly, but go so extreme with it that it destroys all chance of discussion. And then if you express the fact that, hey, well, it's a little more nuanced than that. Actually, it's a lot more nuanced than that. And they say, fuck you. You're not one of us. You're just a fucking dirty conservative. It's like, okay, go rot in hell, you piece of shit. It's like, I don't.
But that's the same. That's the same thing from the other side. It's like there's no movement in that space.
I would be curious to talk to a person who is Republican and is surrounded by people who are so extreme in their conservative views and see how they feel. If they because there's got to be plenty of people. It's like, God, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, probably.
I really would like to know if anyone knows a person like that.
I don't. Up. Not me.
Hook them. I mean, I could probably. I actually don't know what Alan. Remember Alan, the old engineer?
I love Alan.
I wonder how far his beliefs go.
Yeah.
His political beliefs. But anyway, that's a very conservative guy. And I love him. Like, when we will still text sometimes, and he hasn't worked at the radio station WSB in a long time. We're actually very similar people, just because politically we fall in different parts of that spectrum.
Right.
It's like, when you boil it down, though, our feelings of life and humanity, it's like, we're actually very similar. And this is what's probably a shame, is that people are so focused on political standing and where you fall on that. And that's the main gauge at this point. And if you're not where I want you to be, then I want nothing to do with you. It's like, you'd be surprised. People are very similar, even if they have different beliefs when it comes to certain issues.
But that's where, like I'm saying, like that's where growth and movement, like I said, either toward your, it can it can bring more color to what you already believe, or it could bring a more nuanced argument that might negate some of the things you believed previously. It doesn't mean that you're totally wrong and then you should be shamed. It's nothing like that. It's like, or you could find out, you know what? I did not have the perspective on this that somebody else had. Maybe I'm wrong.
It's a nice belief, but people watch the video of the woman crying because she was on the train with Hysterics and it's got 45,000 hearts. Like, that's what I want. That.
Yeah.
I want that myself.
I need to cry online about something.
I do think it's a big driver of it. They see the reaction it gets, like, well, clearly this is a thing that people like, so I want to be liked. So I'm going to be the kind of person who is incapable of having any kind of normal reaction in a giant city that I've decided to live in.
Did you watch 90 Day Fiancé?
I used to.
You haven't watched it yet in a while?
No, why?
Well, there's just someone who lived in New York, and she went on vacation to the Dominican Republic and of course met this like beautiful man, and the whole episode where she started, I think it was the very first episode, the first beginning of it, was that she was like, I'm sick of New York. Like, New York's terrible. It's really difficult. And anytime I see stuff about New York and people talking about it, I always think about you and wonder what you would think about it.
I would hate that woman. How dare you talk about this city like this?
Well, I think too, she wanted a reason to leave. Anyway, there's a billion other things that happen, but whatever.
I know I complain about it, but when I think about it, it's like, where else would I live? I don't want to live anywhere else. I still want to live here. You're allowed to complain about things, and it doesn't mean that you hate it. I'm not saying this has nothing to do with that woman.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, when I do express things, I could see how someone could draw that conclusion. Like, why don't you fucking leave? It's like, no, I don't actually hate it that much. Yes, there are difficulties, but I still really like living here. So yeah. I'm not going. I like listening to my neighbor have fake sex.
Are they making any noise?
No, nothing came up. I'm sorry. Dang it. Nothing happened. Gino's still around, I saw, though, on 90 Day Fiancé.
Gino and Yasmin.
She looks totally different than she did last time I watched.
She sure does.
It's like a totally different person.
She's got body dysmorphia. She's a female impersonator,
And talk about a person who needs to control their emotions.
Gino!
Well, there's so many double standards there.
Yeah.
It's like she's allowed to talk about wanting to have sex with her ex, and then she finds someone's chapstick.
Yeah.
That could be God
that
knows
was lipstick.
Well, whatever. I don't give a shit what it is. How if it's old, if it's not old, if he hung out with someone.
Yeah.
She sets different standards for herself, things she's allowed to do.
Like she had a bachelorette party. And then he had one, and she's like, "Oh God, Gino, no!"
Yeah, Gina's a chump. Don't get me wrong, but
for sure, I
did put on that reunion when they were talking about it, and they brought one of the strippers on. She's like, Gino didn't even seem like he really wanted to be there.
That's probably true.
And then she threw some fit and like screamed and went to the back and was inconsolable.
I'm watching that episode right now,
and everyone on set's like, how can you let this happen, Gino? You gotta go. I was like, no, if you're dealing with that kind of thing constantly, you're done at some point. Like, I'm not going to console them.
Yeah.
This is an overreaction for what's happening. I am not, but everyone's fuck both of them. They're idiots.
Yeah, for sure.
Sure, they're entertaining, and I know why they're still on the show, because there's something wrong with both those people.
Yeah.
Very much so. I don't know why you would stay in that relationship.
I don't
Any
know
normal
either.
person. Maybe it does become when you are tied to a TV show too, like income.
I mean, yeah, that's how they're making money.
Yeah, it's like, all right, well, we got to stay together. I as cynical as I am, a lot of times with shows like that, I like to think that people go into it. Same thing with Love is Blind. People say, well, they're just chasing clout now.
Yeah.
And I agree there's a level to that, but I still like to think people are going because, whatever the premise of the show is something they buy into. But that Ed, I don't buy for a second that she likes him. I think they're in it
no way.
to market themselves.
Yeah.
How could she? She's too pretty for him.
Ed.
Necklace Ed. A guy who really buys into his own legend. He's got stickers and tattoos of himself.
That's smart. That sticker thing is smart.
Yeah, but it's one thing to create the stickers and sell them, but to put them on every item you own.
Yeah, that's true. I have a sticker on my car of our podcast, but I don't have it everywhere,
And that's promoting it a bit. Other people see that.
Well, he's promoting himself,
Well, it's just a picture of his head. It's like a caricature of his face
Ew.
or something.
Gross head.
Okay, well, you can do the intro and outro.
All right.
At the same time, because we never actually officially
play the music
started the
over
show.
each other.
You mean to double up on the music?
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Oh, wait. Welcome to One Topic, where we stick to one topic. My name is Autumn Fisher.
My name is Greg Russ, and thank you for listening.
Thanks for listening, guys. Love you. Bye.